Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. We fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our...
On this episode of Cigars and Sea Stories, Bennett and Mike are sitting down to talk rules of engagement. I can't believe that we have never actually had like a conversation on this topic. Because rules of engagement, they fluctuate in between the various zones that you might be fighting in, whether or not it's clandestine mission. You could have a certain set of rules of engagement. Bennett knows all too well what that's like. And then, you've got downright, the world of war, so to speak, in, say, Ramadi or in Kajaki, and I understand what that's like. Sangan was different, too. Anyway, ROEs. Love them, hate them, probably hate them. Hate them a little bit more than love them. I think ROEs have probably got more
it just
good
depends.
people killed.
It really just depends, yeah.
Well, right. I'm not saying that we get to go around hacking people to bits and shit like that. We're not fucking barbarians here, people, but... What? Okay, so when I first... In 2007, I think the rules of engagement were tightened up from what they were in 2005, 2006 timeframe. But it was still, like pen flare, and then it was the shout, show, shove, shoot. And then, like in 2005, it was a 9mm and then hit them with a 50. Like there's no... Even that.
There's no in between. It's like the escalation went from bam to bam.
Right. Well, and so you just hit the other nail on the head. Escalation of force, right? ROE, rules of engagement, typically are dictated with some sort of escalation of force. If you're in a guard mount, there's an escalation of force. And then when you're rolling around in cat teams, we either had to abide by the rules of engagement, depending on the operation that we were going out in, or if we were sitting in a cordon, we had to abide by the escalation of force rules. 2 sets. Seems like the same thing. Definitely not the same thing. Definitely not the same thing. Like rules of engagement were, like if a guy is looking at you with binos, radio, all of those other different things. And then when you're sitting in a static position, you had escalation of force. If you're rolling around, there was some EOF that you were concerned with. Really not so much. So the rules, here's who you get to smoke, and then, then you have the escalation of force. If there needs to be an escalation of force. Which 9 times out of 10, yeah, just shoot that guy. You're going to be fine. Right? Depending. I can't say that. I've never been under investigation, but back then...
Right.
I mean, dude, we would get guys with binos and a fucking radio staring at your patrol, and then shit would start blowing up around you. Like, that guy's going in the ground. What are you talking about? We're smoking that dude. He's unarmed. I don't give a fuck. He's a spotter for the enemy. That's like, well, is there an escalation of force? No, just shoot the guy. But if you're sitting on the cordon, and then you got a guy who's walking up, dripping wet, the guy weighs like $110. You see him and he's outfitted like Santa Claus in the middle of the summer. You're like, back up, buddy. Hold on. You're a little bit too poofy for my liking. What the hell is going on underneath of that man dress? And you're like, lift your fucking hands up and boom. Yeah. No, thank you. And so then you've got your escalation of force. What do? You got a guy who appears to be unarmed, but, he's a suicide bomber and he's walking towards you. I mean, me personally, shoot him in the face so that way, lights out, game over. That just helps everybody. You know what I mean?
I do. I do know what you mean. Well, I mean, the actual, like, instances that I've had, where, like the hair on the back of our neck stood up a couple of times was there was like 3 or 4 incidents in Bosnia, and then there was a whole bunch in Egypt. I shit you not, every single time we went through a checkpoint, an Egyptian army checkpoint, because in that country there's no, they don't have the freedom of movement, right? It's not the same. It's let me see your papers, that fucking thing. But we did not have to do that. But sometimes they would like fuck with us and or like try. And usually it's because they were so the privates or whoever was manning the checkpoint were so fucking stupid they just didn't realize, right? So they were trying to like treat us like another, like I don't know if they were just straight from boot camp or what the fuck, but usually it would end up badly with like a lieutenant. Like they would see like they drew down on us a couple of times,
right?
Like, because we have weapons and shit. Well, no shit, dumbass. We are we're a military fucking vehicle driving through, but we weren't. Because even us, we were relegated to those white pickup trucks. Just like
God, yeah.
Fucking ISIS or whoever. Every other idiot fucking organization in the like Egypt or, pick your fucking country there. You're driving around in a white pickup truck, whether it's a Nissan or a Toyota, it's something.
And that is the quote unquote technical that you're going to see on the battlefield is a white pickup. Yeah. Right.
So we, we had that on with our freaking uniforms and all the shit. And we would roll up to this checkpoint and, private schmuckatelli would be all freaked the fuck out because there's private schmuckatellis in every armed forces. And you'd end up seeing like the officer come out with like a switch and like start smacking people. Just fucking retarded. Right, the swagger stick. What do they call that? There's like it's a swagger stick.
Yeah. It's what drill instructors used to have.
Yeah, right. So he would come out and start smacking people with it and be like, what are you crazy? And then he'd wave us through, It was just fucking
right.
But they all kind of had this like undernourished like haze in their face, like undernourished, no sleep. You know what I'm saying now?
I know exactly. The gaunt.
The gaunt, right?
The gaunt to them,
which is just like holy shit, man.
Oh, yeah.
Or is this like indentured servitude?
Yes.
That you being in the army, basically.
Pretty much. A lot of guys try to escape the Egyptian army. Well, not escape. They just go UA for a little while. You know what I mean?
Right. So I mean, because we'd sit out there and like when we were on post, right, up in the towers, there was like our base camp was not surrounded by Egyptian troops, but there was on one side there was like I guess you would call it a barracks maybe, and you'd see them out there with like hand fishing lines trying to catch their breakfast in the morning and shit.
Right.
So we're like it's just fucking bizarre.
Oh yeah.
So there's like call to prayer, they'd all be out on the beach, and then they would start fishing after that.
That right there.
So that was like sort of ROE type stuff, like just don't shoot the guys unless they shoot at you, which never happened. But I hated driving mail or whatever going from place to point A to point B because we'd usually have to go through like 2 or 3 checkpoints. Yeah. It's like Jesus Christ, like
that noise.
Yeah, so we had that, and I'm like, where's my Humvee with like the 50 on top? Because if we had those, there wouldn't be an issue. Yeah, right. But instead, we had to drive the, because we were we were observers. That's all.
Right.
And just saw some dumb shit, dude. But anyway.
That's funny because that is, I mean, the majority of the time, that's exactly what ROEs are intended for, are those types of really tight purposes. Another one would be like Bridgeport. Going out to Bridgeport, California, a lot of people don't know this. It's, it's a, I think it's a state park. State, not a national park. But you can go out there. I mean, you can go backpacking. You can go up to the 8,000-foot parking lot. You're not going to hang out with Marines the entire time. or anything else like that. We do our training, we go off over here, but we have certain rules of engagement. If you're operating out there on a mission as part of a training operation, you can't interact with anybody. You don't want the locals to know.
No, and I know about that shit too.
Right, especially in California.
Which I think I've told this story, right, a few times. But for those that haven't heard it, we were on a relay site up by the top of a mountain, so we could relay messages during this. We were doing drug operations in the national forest, and we were up on a relay site, and we had a few times when hikers would be right. I mean, like on top of us.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck? It happened in Alaska too. Hikers and wildlife, and like, don't shoot the wildlife. I'm like, if a bear's gonna attack my ass, I'm gonna shoot that son of a bitch. But that was like part of the ROE briefing,
See, it was
don't shoot the moose. Well,
right.
We almost got attacked. We almost got attacked by a mama moose. Almost kicked our ass. Oh my God. And that son of a bitch almost got mowed down with a 60. I mean,
the fucking just a pig barking out of the bush.
The one story I don't know if I ever told is my medevac story. Have I ever told that story on the air? Talking about ROEs.
I don't think so. In
the United States. So, all right. So this is the same mission, just not in the relay site. We were actually actively, we had done an aerial recon, found a couple pot fields, and we got inserted, and then we were going to go on land to, like, I guess you could say, engage, right?
Right.
And part of that, it was, hot California, desert, basically, in essence, the coastal mountains there, not the best places in the world to go hiking and roll around if you're got 100 pounds of gear on,
Right, exactly.
Well, so I went down with like heat exhaustion because we were crawling. I was crawling through this. We were going because of the ROEs. We were strictly supposed to be seen, so we couldn't like scoot across the highway. We had to crawl under that fucking thing.
Right.
So we crawled through this drainage culvert. Well, I don't know. It had to have been 150 degrees in that fucking drainage culvert. It was insane, right?
Jesus.
And I got stuck.
You got stuck in that motherfucker?
I got stuck in that fucking thing.
Hell no.
And ended up, it got so bad, I like passed out. So finally we got unstuck. No. I got out of there, and then I went to go throw my rucksack. You know how you do the rucksack flop over your head? You lift it up over and you drop it down. Well, when I did that, I passed the fuck out.
I really wish that I was there for that. I know exactly what you're talking about because it's such a guy moment where you're like, yep, gonna flip that up over top and
I'm going down.
Oh my God.
So then I
no.
Next thing I know, I'm like, I wake up and I'm in like this creek, like halfway up, like my legs and everything are like in this creek. Doc's trying to stick an IV in my arm. Right. And the next thing I know, I just have this like sheer pain, just like, like I woke up like, where the fuck am I? Right. Then the next thing I know, my whole body's in pain because like almost both legs and like my abs and everything was all cramped up.
Oh man,
dude, it was horrible. It was horrendous.
Oh,
it was awful. And Doc couldn't get an IV in me because my veins were collapsing and all this shit. So I was like heat stroke basically at that point. And I had overhydrated, pissed out all my electrolytes, yada, yada, yada. Right. Oh. So my team leaders got no choice, but they call in a fucking medevac.
Yeah.
So, we were billeted at Vandenberg Air Force Base, and we had SOAR pilots where our the Special Operations Air Regiment Army guys.
Amazing.
Yeah, they were, dude. When we did aerial recons, they would go map of the earth in those fucking mountains. It was retarded.
Those guys are
retarded. It was amazing. So anyway, we were rolling. The next thing you know, they've moved me up to the side of the highway, like we're in a ditch. Well, next thing you know, there's a state policeman there. Like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
Basically, like, he gets out of his cruiser and he sees like 6 Marines and a corpsman in the ditch with, I carried a 60, bro.
Right.
And he's like, oh, what the fuck is going, you know what I mean? So like my team leader's got to like pull him, we have like papers and all kinds of bullshit. He's calling like the National Forest Service is showing up there. So we have like a National Forest, like a park ranger blocks off one lane of traffic. The state trooper blocks off the other one, and they bring a Blackhawk down right in the middle of the fucking highway. And we all come running out. We all come running out of the freaking.
Right. Except for you, you're in a police litter.
Yeah, I'm on a freaking litter basically, and they load us up, take us back to Vandenberg. They drop me off at the whatever, the hospital there. Yeah. And then they take the rest of my team back out and drop them off in another spot because, everything had been compromised at that point. So, yeah, man, that's my story. Nice little thermometer in the ass. It was fun. It was all fun.
Oh, man.
They put me in like basically a cool down pool. It was like one of those like trainer full of like water and ice, and it was crazy, dude. I was down for a few days.
Well, see, that right there, that's why you follow us on social media. You just subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Bing! Oh, dude. I wish that we had some pictures of that. I'm sure that we don't.
We absolutely do not have pictures of
that. There are those moments.
So my team leader, I remember, the only thing I remember is him yelling at me. Like once he knew I was okay, was him yelling at me because I had eaten at the chow hall the day before. I mean, like this had anything to do with it. It probably did, but you never know. I ate like a cream puff.
Get
and
out
he
of
was
here.
He was yelling at me about, you shouldn't eat the fucking cream puffs. See, this is what happens when you eat the fucking cream puffs. Or some shit like that. It was pretty funny. No, it's probably the fifth of whiskey I drank the night prior.
Right.
When we went out and did karaoke.
That's probably what did it.
Fucking Lompoc, California.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
See, that shit's
couple really, really hot. Jesus, there were some really good looking chicks there, but it was weird. They're all dependents. It was fucking crazy. So you either have the Air Force Base there or you have the jail. So everybody works at one place or the other. It's fucking wacky.
Well, it's like Victorville. Like, did you ever spend any time in Victorville?
No.
Really unique place. Let me tell you what. It's basically just take like base housing and let it go to shit. And that's what you go when you do all of your mount ops in. So it is pretty fucking nuts, man. It's like end of the world type stuff, neighborhoods empty, and you're going around in there doing all of your CQB tactics. And it's weird though, because there's civilians. Like you can see them in the distance, going to Burger King and shit. Whereas you're launching a Dragon Eye. I mean, it's just weird. And it was funny though, because we were rolling around doing the 9mm paint, sesame rounds. And it was one of those where it was force on force and everything was all movement to contact. So ROEs were just fucking tag anybody kind of thing. And I was in the house, moved across this open airway kind of a deal. And I had been tagged in both legs in March Air Force Base. Remember me sharing that story? So, like, we were playing with Sesame. I say playing. We were doing Op 4 with Sesame rounds. And I was moving across the bay window, and I got shot in both thighs. And Doc flat out was like, you just got shot in both of your femoral arteries. There is no way that I'm going to save your ass. Like, you're bleeding out inside of your pelvis internally. You're fucked. I'm like, oh, shit. So that was a real thought moment, right? So I'm ducking and diving and going around and doing all of this other stuff. And I pull up. And as I pull up, this guy walks by the window. And a dude in like a blue smock, a filthy baseball cap. He's wearing zero protective equipment. And I'm like, hey, buddy. And he turns and looks at me and freaks. He's, holy shit. And he's got a clipboard. He throws it and takes off running. So I follow him. I don't follow him, but I look where he's running to and kind of poke my head out there. And he runs back over to the porta shitter truck. He was the porta shitter guy, and he was trying to clean out the porta johns while all of us are running around doing our thing. He was looking for the leader, I guess, or something like that. What the fuck? Yeah. He's lucky I didn't shoot him in the face with a sesame
With a
round.
fucking, yeah,
You know,
that
like,
shit hurt.
oh man, this guy's got to be in play. Like, hey, buddy.
Yeah, I know. I've told that story where I sim round our freaking XO right in the throat.
No. What?
Yes, I've totally told that story.
You shot your XO in the throat with a
Yeah.
sesame.
With this, yeah, that was bad. Gigantic welt on the side of his neck. Because he didn't have a beacon on. He wasn't in play.
Oh,
but,
yeah, you did tell me that.
yeah.
He was
So
on the
don't-
roof. He was on the adjacent roof.
And me and another dude smoked him. Like,
Love it.
well, hey, OCs are supposed to have their freaking red lights on. No red light, you got smoked.
Oh, dude.
And you have a giant. It looked like he got stung by one of Stephen King's fucking mosquitoes from The Mist, right in his throat. Huge,
Like
freaking welt.
It's like a desert wasp tangle.
Yeah, right. Like a freaking baseball on the side of his neck.
Oh, my God.
Oh, dude, it was horrible.
We were so vicious with sesame rounds. If we could get a back of the head shot, we totally would. You know, people would say, like, oh, you're not supposed to shoot him in the head. And I'm like, I used to flat out, as the team leader, I'm like, you're going to shoot that dude in the face. And they're like, but they said, you know, we can't shoot each other in the face with these things. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck.
Plausible deniability. I was aiming at center mass.
I said,
my rifle's off.
Well, dude, one of the things that I told everybody in that environment is you cannot tell me 2 to the chest and not 1 to the head when all of our live fire training is 2 to the chest and 1 to the head. You're not going to stop my muscle memory. It's not going to happen. You will be shot in the face if you cross me out there. Like, that's just going to happen. Right? You know what I mean? That was my mentality with it. I'm going to shoot this dude in the fucking face.
Like, if you don't want to get shot in the face, you better duck.
The greatest thing in the world is, okay, and I figured this out. So we had a coyote who told me this. He was like, shoot the dust in front of the guy, he'll duck his head, and then tag him in the top of his dome. I'm like, that is some fucking evil shit, and I'm going to do it. And so anytime that I had somebody in the prone at distance or something, you just tag a couple of rounds, right? And sure as shit, old boy ducks his head and you shoot him in the head. Oh man, you aim for all of the gaps. With like, it's lesson learned. It's smarts.
Aim for the gaps.
It's smarts. Oh, dude, because we're running around in PPE. I'd try to shoot people up underneath of the armpit and stuff. Why would you not shoot where the enemy is going to try to shoot you? Do you think the enemy is going to aim for your side sappies? Methinks not. Like, the enemy is going to try to shoot you under the armpit and then shoot you in the ear. I mean, that's just how it works. Right?
When they're actually aiming.
Right. If you go up against somebody with any training,
not holding the AK out around the corner and pulling
right,
the fucking trigger.
Or the buttstock against the forehead. I've seen it. The buttstock against their forehead. The ghetto style freaking sideways AK fucking over the wall. Right.
Trick.
Rules of engagement on that guy. Honestly, people were just thinning out the herd. Okay. I mean, that doesn't need to be. Or the guy who wears have you ever seen the picture of the guy wearing his life preserver, his life vest? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
It's
yes,
an orange life vest.
It's just ridiculous. Like, what is that? What are you doing? Like, are we gonna jump in the Tigris to get away? What's going on?
Oh man,
What are we doing?
oh dude. And maybe that's what it was. Maybe he made a beach landing, and
Maybe he was their
off.
Marine Corps.
That's
what it was.
Never run around a combat zone wearing a giant orange yoke. I'm not. There's something about that. Like, you know, I'm going to leave the blaze orange at home.
Took life vest a little too seriously.
Oh, dude. Seriously, though, check this out. I was making fun of a guy one time because we were on the range. He was in the prone. And I don't know if I've shared this or not, but yeah, maybe I have. He was shooting the AK-47 down the charging handle. Right? One of our cops. And I'm like, there's no fucking way you're hitting anything like that. And he had a reason for it. It's because the profile of the AK, when you've got a 30-round magazine in it, is tall. And so lay the thing down on the side while you're in the prone, sneak it up around the grass or whatever over a grassy knoll, and use the charging handle as a aiming post, essentially. He was hitting targets and shit at 25 yards. Whatever works, man. Cool. They also did the squat, right? They did the Haji squat. We all made fun of them. And, see, on our side of the fence, we all made fun of them. So I started asking the guys, like, why do you do that? And it's because they put IEDs all over the place. You don't want to take a knee and hit another IED, so just squat down onto the balls of your feet, and then you've got less surface area. That makes sense. Ding! Learning has occurred, right? Those are good idea. That's a really square idea. And I started using it. The other thing that you can do too is you can squat on the balls of your feet, throw your elbows into the pockets of your knees, and actually get a pretty decent shooting position. That makes sense. You gotta have the leg strength to do it when you're in a kit. Don't get me wrong. But your SAPI plate will actually kind of just hold you, lock you into your position. Yeah. Good times. See,
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got Afghanistan, whole other ball of wax. IED goes off, you can't start killing people, man. Unless you start, unless you see a trigger guy, unless you see somebody who's got some sort of microphone, radio, or something like that, you're not killing anybody.
Yeah, you're not just start smoking dudes all around. It doesn't work that way.
No.
Different ROE.
Well, it's a different ROE, and the other thing, too, is, Christ, man, you got families and shit that are around. Dude, that's what's horrible about some of this stuff, right? You've got Ramadi, where they would put IEDs essentially where people aren't going to go, more often than not. There were civilians that got blown up by IEDs, don't get me wrong, but they were blown up at the same time as American military forces getting blown up, right? If that makes sense. And then you've got the Taliban. Fuck, man, they'll put IEDs right where families go and shit. They don't give a damn. They don't care. Because they look at them, they're like, oh, those filthy wretches. Those progressive wretches kind of a deal. Living with the Americans.
Right, yeah.
They're
like, if they're not fighting them, then they're the enemy as well.
Right, so they'll creep all the way up into what they consider to be enemy territory, even though they're countrymen, and then they'll put IEDs right in their town. The fuck? That's messed up. Different
tribe, different ideology,
Oh, yeah.
It's way more complicated over there than people...
Extraordinarily complicated.
Have no idea, like, the amount... it's like, yeah, it's just not... Because there isn't a sense of belonging. They still roll the way that, pre-civilized, humans rolled, which was, in tribes of 50 to 100 people, and there you have it. And that's what their community consists of. Anything outside of that, it's, they might have friendly, communications and trading and all the other shit, but it's straight up tribal.
Oh yeah, for sure. It very much so is. Well,
and that's a concept that, other than, that most Americans don't get.
I don't think
it's just not the same.
I don't think they truly understand that they're still basing a lot of it on an oral history. Let that sink in a little bit.
Right, absolutely.
So with an 85% illiteracy rate and a tribal ideology, with an oral history, I mean, my God. And so you're talking to people, it's not like all of them are, addled.
So the funniest thing is
it's not like they're retarded,
They start passing out flyers and shit,
Right.
Dude, these fucking people can't read. There's like 3 people in this entire village that can read.
Oh,
and
man.
two of them are mullahs.
Right, and they can only read Arabic.
Right. So what are you passing out flyers for, you jackass?
Well, right. I mean, that's the thing. Okay, so it's again.
We're leafleting the area.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, man. You fucks.
Dude.
Anyway.
You're talking about the same people. This is honestly what they did. This is a true fucking thing. They took an engineer stake, put an ammo can attached to it, wired to it, right? And on the side of it, put it like written in English and written in, I believe they used Arabic and Pashto. They wrote like complaint suggestions on the side of this fucking ammo can with, a little notepad and some pencils, like some fucking golf pencils.
Right.
Attached.
Because again, like 2 people in the village know what the fuck's going on.
Now, here's the thing. They put all of these ammo can engineer thing, complaint boxes, blah, 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 down alleyways, other avenues, places where we can't see them. So we can't see them. You put something there that we can't see, and now you're going to go check inside of it. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to blow the fuck up. That's what's going to happen. Done. That's exactly what I said to him. In a briefing on Podjack, you're going to blow the fuck up. They will put a bomb inside of that. And it's like, And it happened.
Civil affairs, baby.
Dude,
you gotta love it.
Was like, what the fuck? And are you the people who are writing the ROE?
We'll take the civil affairs guys and surround them with fucking SF guys. Right. Like, what the fuck? Those SF guys had to have been like going out of their minds with the ideas that these people would come up with, like to
you have no
reach, changing hearts and minds, like Jeff. And he's like, man, some of the wacky ideas that these people would come up with is like straight out of like a fucking movie.
Oh yeah.
And we're like, nope, this won't work, and this is why, because you're gonna get blown the fuck up.
Well, yeah,
that's why.
Well, because the team that was on Jackson, whether or not they knew this, shared a wall inside of that courtyard that they were in, and the guys who were there know exactly what I'm talking about. But those other civil affairs guys and everything else were just adjacent to them. And I was in through Jackson only a handful of times, and we would talk with some of the ODA guys, and there was only a handful of them. They would rotate out of there. I mean, it's not like they were permanent residents or anything, but that's literally the number one complaint. From that guy.
We're gonna rotate you out. You're gonna get to go babysit the civil affairs.
That's exactly what they said.
Yeah,
we're gonna go babysit these fucking idiots who want to put up complaint jars and shit. And it's like, what in the hell is going on? Well, and it was one of those places, Sankin. It had a tighter ROE as far as a rule of engagement, only because you had a lot of people not openly walking around with AKs, but you did have a lot of ANCOP, a lot of ANP, a lot of freaking just other paramilitary that were in and around that place. So a lot of juicy targets for shitheads to come and blow up. But if they wanted to blow them up, they would have to blow them up in the middle of the bazaar, which was a chance that they were willing to take. They were willing to blow up the other countrymen who were there. Because, I don't know, they probably viewed them as war profiteers in a highly conservative mindset. They're just guys who run shops. But you're also talking about people where it's like, you can't listen to music, all of those other different stringents that we've talked about before. They adhere to very barbaric policies. I think that's the easiest way to put it.
We will call them barbaric policies.
Well, the Taliban purposely puts themselves into a entirely ancient way of life. And so they're easily manipulated by other minds who might be well educated. You know, you've got a mullah who speaks Arabic. He says that you shouldn't learn to read or write because God said you shouldn't learn to read or write. And then he's standing there with the book telling you whatever the fuck he wants to tell you. Come on, man. Like, what? Come on.
That's mind control 101.
And we were all trained on this prior to going overseas. So it's like, when I hear people say, oh, the military, they're the only ones who should handle guns and stuff like that. What they're saying is that they understand the stringent policy that we've got as far as rules of engagement are very, very tight. Our shoot, don't shoot in the military is extraordinarily tight. And so if they're like, well, I mean, it makes sense. The NRA was founded by returning veterans who were training civilians because they were like, you guys don't know how to shoot, and so it makes sense why us who have gone through a lot of that rules of engagement being real tight, a lot of us are being asked, hey, will you come in here and help on some of these different training, scenarios, whatever the case may be. And I'm not going to bring up all the different scenarios. It's just, it makes sense. We understand what, shout, show, shove, shoot. We understand like the basic 4-weapon safety rules, sure, how to handle firearms and all of that other stuff. That's just the basics. I mean, I think a lot of people, they don't really think about the rules of engagement from your typical gunfight is 3 feet, 3 shots, 3 seconds. It usually happens in and around a convenience store. I mean, like late at night, stuff like that. Don't put yourself into that scenario. Hey. So that's like number one. It's funny though, because our ROEs, how do I put it? You're not looking for a fight, but you kind of want to get into one just so they have something to do while you're on patrol. I mean, maybe that doesn't make any sense to your average mind.
No, it does, because by that point you're kind of like, I need to do something.
Well, right. And
let's be honest, the adrenaline is a high.
Yeah, but it's like, I'm here. I'm stuck here at this moment in time
Put me in, coach.
Right, exactly. Right. Yes. And if something goes off, you want to be the guy who's there to help handle that moment. I don't know. I always had this QRF mentality. I enjoyed QRF, not because, it was I enjoyed QRF because you're going to be effective. You weren't just essentially going to be walking around, yes, observing and doing all of the things that you do 98% of the time on patrol. You're just walking around with a gun 98% of the time on patrol.
Well, but at QRF, if you're getting alerted and you're responding, you're going to do work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like, the best part.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It is the put me in, coach. Yeah, that was rules of engagement, escalation of force, QRF, and then being on the barrels and outside the wire in under, say, 120 seconds. And then anything could happen. You could leave the wire and get blown up. Or you can make it all the way into the firefight and see some heinous shit, and then other stuff will happen. But it was constantly on this observe, orient, decide, act, or determine, act, whatever, the OODA loop. But that was that's kind of, we'll go into OODA loop on another episode. But rules of engagement, I know that you guys and gals have had to endure rules of engagement of your own. I say endure because sometimes they're a little bit tight.
They're a little wacky.
They're a little wacky. They can actually do more harm than good. But we do have them for a reason, because we have the law of war. So, but anyway, weigh in with your comments. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Cigars and Sea Stories. Thank you so much for being a part of our Cigars and Sea Stories listeners group. Find us on Facebook, Cigars and Sea Stories listeners group. Anyway, we do all sorts of wacky stuff in there. I think that's probably there, and on Instagram are the two places that I spend my most time with the Cigars and Sea Stories audience. And then as far as Side Paragraph, LinkedIn, and, all of that ThighParagraph.com stuff. So if you're into business and you want to run your own, or you want to expand your own, check out ThighParagraph.com. We took the military op order and created a business planning methodology out of it using proven business planning tools and tactics. And we didn't make that shit up. So you should totally check that out at ThighParagraph.com. Thank you so much to Heroes Media Group. They are our podcast network that we are a part of, and they're awesome. They give us a lot of support. I do a weekly regroup, sometimes more often, with Adam Bird. Great guy, doing big things. Yeah, check all that stuff out. Spartan Media, if you want to get your, we'll call it construction-based, more contracting-based website set up, check out Spartan Media. Check out McPherson Marketing Group. If you guys like some of the videos that we've got coming out that are a little bit more marketing type videos, check out McPherson Marketing Group. He owns and operates dreamvideoagency.com. That's dreamvideoagency.com. Look him up. Tell him that the guys at Cigars and Sea Stories sent you. He'll probably hook you up with a discount. I don't know. We don't even run an affiliate program with him. He's freaking awesome. We just love the guy. Go look him up. We don't have sponsors, not in the true sense by any means. We're operating with fellow veterans, and so we're buyers of each other's services. And so far, so good. If you would like to sponsor the show and be a part of the action, go to cigarsandseastories.com, click sponsorship, fill out our sponsorship form, and boom, you're in the mix. We'll be having a chat with you. Thank you so much to everybody who continually listens to Cigars and Sea Stories. Share everything. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Bennett, factoid?
I don't have one.
You son of a...
I'm not in a position today to give one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and being a master of the dark arts that he is in a clandestine spot right now, providing his side of the conversation. I think that's the easiest way to put it. So
yes, correct.
Here is Mike's fun fact. Shooting a bow and shooting a gun are almost exactly opposite. When you shoot a bow, you sight at the target and then put the pin on it. When you shoot a gun, you focus on the front sight post. So there you go. Maybe some of you guys are like, hey man, I'm thinking about getting into archery. I shoot down the arrow. Don't need no stinking pins.
Settle down, Robin Hood.
Trey Caraway right now is laughing his ass off at me. He's seen me shoot a bow.
Settle down there, fucking Loxley.
If you're a real man like Fred Bear and I, you're wearing your brush cap, walking through the bush with your recurved bow. Anyway, love you guys. And on that note, we cue the music.
I will flag on front to every breeze, from dawn to setting sun.